In New York, prenuptial agreements are going to be enforced no matter what. There are some outlier cases, there are some exceptions to what I've just said, but if you recall your history, New York was a commercial state originally. We were involved in selling property. We were involved in all those things that were of a commercial bent. And consequently, prenuptial agreements, which are just contracts that change the law, are going to be enforceable so long as you follow the rules in New York. And there are only 3 or 4 rules. Number 1, they have to be in writing. Number 2, they have to be signed off on in a particular way. I created that law years and years ago when I am one of the few divorce lawyers in the state to have ever argued in our Court of Appeals, which is, for most states, the Supreme Court of the state, creating the acknowledgement provision or the bright line rule, which says that when people sign, the notary has to acknowledge their signatures in a particular way. And the third thing is that, generally speaking, you have to disclose what you have. Years ago, I represented a woman who was marrying an extremely famous musician. The name I can't say, but the richest and most famous musician on Long Island. And the reason I got retained was that I said to my potential client, who became the client, you know, you have this much negotiating power. She said, what do you mean? I said, do you see any air between my fingers? You've got this much. And she said, well, then I'll sign whatever is put before me, and I'll deny having read it, or I'll deny having signed it, or I'll deny the enforcement. I said, no, you don't understand. When you sign a prenuptial agreement, despite the fact that it's a contract and despite the fact that you're supposed to have equal bargaining position, you don't in New York. You never do in any state or jurisdiction. And consequently, that's why I put my hand up and my fingers together like that. I said, instead of negotiating for your ultimate divorce or death rights, because marriages only end in 2 ways. They end in divorce or death. That's it. And consequently, you have a waiver of rights in both divorce and death. I said to this woman, I said, why don't you negotiate for your marriage? Despite the fact that she divorced 7 or 10 years later because he got tired of her or she got tired of him. But it doesn't matter. During a marriage, if you're lucky enough to be in the position, you should negotiate for the marriage, not for the divorce or death.